So Bootstrap 4 has a series of variables, mix-ins, and other settings that are predefined when you install it with a package manager. So these settings address colors, typography, spacing, and more. Now, if you want to change these settings, there's a specific file that you can use to redefine their values. So in the code editor, but real quick, before we begin, make sure you check out my site, coursetro.com, where you're going to find a bunch of courses on modern design and development. A lot are free, and the others you can access for the cost of buying me like a 6-pack each month. That's it. Now, also, it probably wouldn't hurt to subscribe here on YouTube, and be sure to make sure the notifications are turned on. All right, let's get back to it. Let's go ahead to Node Modules. We're going to go to the Bootstrap folder, and we're going to go down here to custom.scss. All right, so we can see that it's labeled Bootstrap overrides, and the instructions are to copy the variables from variables.sass to this file to override the default values without modifying source files. All right, so this file right here in custom is where we make adjustments to the theme colors and those other settings that I mentioned. All right, so what we want to do first before doing that, let's take a look in variables.scss right here. All right, so if we scroll up, we have a table of contents because this is a massive file. So as you can see, we have a lot of options from which we can go ahead and make specific customizations to. Usually that would be things like colors, at the very least. So down here, this is the color section, and we could see that it defines or it assigns color names to their specific hex values. So green, blue, yellow, pink, purple, whatever. And then also down here, we have our brand. So primary, success, info, warning, danger, and verse. Now you can also notice at the end of every single one of the variables that are defined within this file, we have this little default right there added at the end. And what that basically means is it kind of works the opposite of the important rule. So if you have a variable that has not been defined elsewhere, such as in the custom Sass file, which we'll do momentarily, then it will default to this value here. All right. So what we want to do is make some custom adjustments based on the layout that we're going to be designing here throughout this course. So I'll bring that up real quickly. And here's a preview of it, just a screenshot. And as you can see, we're using this sort of teal color. So let's go ahead and define that. So we'll redefine that inside of the Sass file. So, or the custom Sass file rather. So what we want to do is I'm just going to copy all of these just in the section up here for the colors. And we'll go back to our custom Sass file, and I'll paste them. Now I'm not going to just redefine all these, but really just one. So we have that teal color, or turquoise basically, which is closest to green. So I'm gonna get rid of everything with exception to green. Also all of this and everything else except for brand primary. So I've really only just used two here. So the color scheme the hex value of the color that we want to use is actually 00FFC4. Now we also must remove default, or this will not work. All right, and then we also have our brand primary. We're going to assign this to green. Also remove default. All right. We also have a couple other ones. So another one is called link color. And again, this is defined within the variables Sass file. And we're going to make this green. And then also we have a body BG for the background color. And this one, we're going to make a specific hex value of 1A, 1B, 1D. And that's like basically almost a black. And then finally, we have one more that we'll define, which is for our type, our font family. I'm just going to paste it in here, and that is font family sans serif. And I'm changing the primary font to Railway, which we've included in the index.html from the Google Web Fonts. So we'll go ahead and save this. And Now we're done with any of the customizations basically that we want to work here. There's one other one that we will be defining later on in the course based on spacing, but we don't need to do that now. So I'm going to get rid of all that. We're going to collapse our node modules folder. We're going to go into source. We're going to go into our style.sass, and I'm going to get rid of this, all this stuff right here, and just hit save. So now what we want to do is go back to our console. We're going to run gulp. And if you already do have it running, just hit Control-C and hit Y to get out of there, and then rerun gulp. And this here is the result. As you can see, it's using that dark, it's almost a black background color that we define in that custom Sass file. So that's how you know it is now working and using what we need based on that custom file. So in the next section, we're going to begin writing the HTML for the very top portion of our project, which will be revolving around the navbar and the navigation. Okay, so let's go ahead and define our navbar. So we will be working within the source in our index.html file right here. Okay, so the very first thing we need to do, and again, I'll refer back to the mockup. As you can see here, we have this this background. You can just barely see it. It's like a watermark background of a game screenshot. And we need to create an ID or div that will span all the way across. So let's go ahead and define that HTML real quick. So it's going to be simply div ID equals hero. And we'll define that momentarily here. Let's go ahead and keep on focusing on the HTML. So Control B will get rid of that sidebar there in Visual Studio Code. And then inside of here, we're going to use our first Bootstrap 4 specific class, which is div class equals container. All right, so this gives you basically a fixed width container that it does adjust and is responsive based on the viewport width. Then we also have div class of row. All right, so inside of here is where the actual navbar goes. That's the very next element that we have to worry about. So to define a navbar, we use nav and then class of navbar. All right. Next, we're going to define navbar toggleable -md. And what this does is it specifies that it should toggle or show on medium viewports and down. And then also we're going to add navbar -inverse. And this is specified for dark backgrounds, which it makes the navbar light. Now, the inverse case of this, if it's a light background, you can use navbar -light. All right. And again, where am I pulling these classes out? Well, certainly not out of my butt. Again, the Bootstrap 4 documentation. All right. So next, we're going to have the actual game logo. So we're going to define an ahref, and it's just going to go nowhere. And then we give it a class of navbar brand. And again, this is specific to Bootstrap 4, and then also text-primary, and that will be bound to our primary color that we specified in that custom class file previously. And then we're going to give it an ID of logo, and then we'll be able to reference it, and then game logo. All right, so we'll save that, and this is what your result should look like so far. So none navigation, but this is our navbar. Okay. So now what we want to do is add in the HTML for our actual button, for the toggle button. So we do this by defining an HTML element button, and then a class of navbar -toggler, right? And then navbar toggler right. So navbar toggler right, and that will move it over to the right essentially. And then we give it a type of button. And this next part is very important. We give it a attribute of data -toggle, and then equals collapse. And then data -target equals, and then we put in the ID of the HTML element that we want to make it show or reveal upon clicking. So that will be our menu, which we haven't yet done. We'll do that just after this element. So navbar supported content. And then we're going to define area controls equals the same ID here without the hash sign there. And then I'm simply going to paste in 2 more right here and here. And by the way, these area specific attributes, this stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications, and they're basically there to make the content accessible for people with disabilities, so with screen readers and stuff like that. So are they required? No, but it's a good thing to add them. So I'm going to go ahead and close this element out, and we're going to go back down here. And so just underneath our button, this is where the actual menu will reside. So right now it's going to be we encase a unordered list or a UL element inside of a div. So the div is going to be div class equals collapse, navbar collapse, justify content end, and this will help push things over to the right. And then ID, the ID of this element has to match the ID of the data target right here. So I'm going to copy that right there. We'll go ahead and close this and close that div. And then inside of here, this is where our unordered list starts. So UL class equals navbar hyphen nav. Again, this is all specific to Bootstrap 4 classes. Inside of here, we're going to have an li of a class nav hyphen item. And then also inside of there, we're going to have a link. So a class equals nav hyphen link. Again, this is all specific to Bootstrap 4 classes. We'll make it the primary color of our color theme, text primary. href, it's not going anywhere. And then we'll name this first one overview. All right. Then we close out that nav item. So now we can copy these 3 lines and paste them 3 times. And then we just simply change up the name here based on our mockup. So specs, fac, and purchase. All right, so let's save that. And yeah, it definitely won't work just yet. I forgot to actually close out this element right here, this button. So let's go back up there real quickly. We have to add a span element inside of here with a class of navbar toggler icon. And then close out the button. This will actually give us our, make sure you close that out as well, our 3-lined hamburger icon menu there. So now we'll save that. Oh yeah, and I have bottom, so yeah, you might want to fix that, jeez. And then save, and there we go. So obviously some work needs to be done to this, and let's go ahead and fix that real quick. So we're going to hop into our style.sass file. So let's hit Control B, style.sass. Okay. The first thing we want to reference is the navbar class itself. All right, so everything will be embedded in here, which Sass allows you to do. So what we'll do is first we're going to give it a width of 100% and then a background of none and important. And next after that, we'll go ahead and we're going to reference a media query. So media max width of 34 EM. So we're saying just on mobile devices only. We're going to say background is going to be black and important. So if I save this, we'll see now it moves over to the right. And if I bring it in, by the way, we can see how this toggles right at the medium desktop size. And it also works. And if it toggles, it will show a black bar here at the top, which you don't have to add. I just decided to. All right, and coming down after that, we're going to reference navbar toggler, change the cursor to a pointer, and then outline 0, because I don't like that blue outline that applies. Also nav link, text transform, uppercase. Also font weight is going to be bold. By the way, this text transform uppercase, you don't necessarily have to add it here. you could add that as a class actually onto the right here. And I believe the class is text-uppercase. That way you don't have to write out that if you don't wish. We will be doing that in the future, but I wanted to show you both ways. So then finally also nav item, and we're going to change the padding here. So I mean right now if I save this, we'll see where we're currently at right here. Things are a little bit too close, so we'll fix that. All right, let's go ahead and put in just padding 0 on the top and bottom and 1 rem units on the right and left. We're going to use another media query here, max width of 34 EM, and we're going to put padding 0. So we're just putting padding 0 on everything at a smartphone resolution. And then also nav link, which is embedded within nav item, and we're going to just put in a media query again of max width 34 EM. This is the last rule set we're going to do. Font weight is normal, and we're going to make the color white just to separate it from the logo a little bit. So now if we save this and go back, things are pushed out a little bit more. And there we go. All right, great. So now in the next section, we're going to focus on the hero section and getting the background and all that going, along with a heading and subheading and a little graphic. All right, I'll see you then. All right, now the first thing I want you guys to do is see we have this assets folder, which is currently empty, is to download the project files. So if you're watching this on YouTube, for instance, go to my site and you have to register and you'll be able to access the project files for this course. Otherwise, if you're watching this on a different network, then the project files will be there somewhere for you to find. Okay, so I'm going to right click and just reveal in Explorer. And let me get this size down quite big right there. So inside of this folder, we're going to place just, I believe, three graphic assets. So I have a different folder here. We're going to just put them in there. Actually, I don't want to get rid of them there. There we go. So you should have BG overlay in screen 1. That's the only images that we're going to be using. All right. So inside of, or at the top of our styles CSS, we're going to reference our hero ID, which, if you recall, was our very first HTML ID. So hero, we're going to put in a background of URL, and this is going to be assets, bg.jpg, and no repeat. Then background size, we'll make cover. That fills everything up, and then background position, we're going to put it at 0, and then from the top 60%. This is going to actually push things up. All right, so now if we go back here, we're only going to see a portion of it because we don't have enough content inside of the hero yet to push it all the way down to see the full background there. So let's go ahead and work on that section. So where this is going to reside is actually just after this div right here. We can see our nav, we have a closing div, and then right here. All right, and so this is actually, this closing div is in relation to our container right here. And so inside of there, we're going to put in a div class of a new row, and we're going to give it another custom class of hero content, and then we're just going to leave it for now. We are going to add more classes to that momentarily, but I wanted to show you the result in the browser first so you can understand it. And then inside of this div, we're going to have our first usage of columns here in Bootstrap 4. So we're going to reference call hyphen the screen size that we want to target, which is going to be medium, so MD, and then a length of 6 columns, and then also a column of small, so SM, and then 12. So we'll see how this works momentarily in the browser. So let's close that out. And then we're going to reference our H1 for our heading. So the class, we have several classes we're going to use that are specific to text. So remember I mentioned before we can use text hyphen uppercase to make them all uppercase by default. We're going to use text center. And this is going to center the text all the way up until we add text-md for medium left. All right, so medium and greater, this text will be left justified. Anything underneath it will be centered. All right, so now we're going to put in destroy all of humanity. Cheesy headline. And then we're going to simply copy this here and paste it. Hit Control B to get rid of that sidebar. And we're going to change this to an H4. And this text is simply going to be capture enemy territory and beat them down like rodents. Aren't I a great copywriter? All right, so we're going to leave all the same classes here for this as well. So let's save that. And you'll notice we really can't see it because of the text color. So before we look at that, let's go to our style CSS. We're at the top. We're just going to reference body. And then we're going to make color white with 3 Fs. So now we'll go back. Okay. So first we have a couple issues here, obviously. One being there's not much padding and stuff, but let's also bring this in and just show you, remember, it's all left aligned currently until we get beneath right there at the medium sizes. So now you can see that they are text centered and then text left. Okay, so let's fix the padding issue because we want, you know, when it comes to design, you want a lot of room to breathe, especially when it comes to your hero section. So to do that, what we're going to do is in this class right here for our row, we're going to add a few specific classes for padding on top and bottom. So the way we do this is we put in padding. So this P right here, that's for padding. However, if you wanted to use margin, you would use M. And then you either use top or bottom. So P, so PT, that means padding top. You could put PB for padding bottom, or MT for margin top, or MB for margin bottom. So we're going to put padding on the top and then put a dash, and we're going to specify a screen size for this. So a large. So we're going to put 6. All right, right now, that's not going to work because we don't even have a spacing size of 6. So if you recall earlier, I mentioned we're going to have to go back into our custom Sass file to add one more override, and we'll do that momentarily. So then we're going to put in PB large, so padding bottom for large will also be 6. And then we're going to put padding top overall will be 5. Okay, so these numbers right here, 5, 6, 6, the higher the number, the more padding you're going to get. It by default only goes up to 5, but I wanted a little bit more margin than what they were offering. So we're going to add our own size here at 6. So I'm going to save this and we'll just take a look at the result in the browser. Again, we have padding top 5 added already. So let's drag this in a bit. We'll see nothing really changes. Let's go back to our custom Sass, and this is all located inside of right here. All right, so with this open, let's go to our variables, and we're going to find this right here, spacers. We're going to copy this entire section right here. Okay, we're going to go back to our custom. We're going to paste this in, and we're going to get rid of the default rule there. And then we're going to add one more size right there. So we're going to put a comma, a 6, open it up in parentheses, and then the XY, we can just copy this one right here. And instead of by 3, we're going to put by 9. We're going to have a ton right here. So you can see it goes from like 0.25, 5, 1.5, 3, 9. So we'll save that. And right now we're not watching this file here. So if we go back to our console, we're going to have to rerun this real quickly. So gulp. All right, so now you can see we have a bunch of padding, and it really just makes everything just stand out a little bit better. So now you can see right here, it's all the way using that number 6 version, but then it comes down to 5, which is substantially less and more ideal for these smaller screen sizes. Awesome. Okay. We also have a graphic over here that we imported in the assets. So let's go back to our code editor. We'll go into index.html. We're going to copy this real quickly. So that call right there, paste it. And we're going to get rid of these 2 type elements. And we're going to put in simply one, which is going to be an image source equals assets overlay.png. Class is hero-image. We're going to reference that ourselves. And then empty, which is margin top. We're going to put it at 5. And then empty, which is margin top at medium reports 0. All right, so save that. Oh, by the way, we also want to add one class up here, text-center, that will center the image. All right, so now if we look at this, it's going to be this large, nasty thing right here, and that's because this image is not yet responsive. So what we'll do is head on over to our style Sass. We're going to put in just down here, we're going to put in hero, a class of hero-image, width of 80%. So let's save that. There we go. And then also let's fix this over here. The type doesn't look very good. So we're going to, just above that, we'll put in H1. Font weight will be bold. And then font size will be 3.5 EM. Save that. There we go. All right, much better. So now let's check it out responsively. Everything looks good. All right, and there we go. Okay, so in the next section, we're going to take a look more closely at columns by defining a secondary piece of content that will span across the entire browser down here that will show features associated with the game, essentially.